right, so we're going to continue on. Thank you for coming back. I wanted to thank the Himalayan Kitchen. I'm not sure if I did that in the first segment, but it's been really kind of them to let us use this room and provide the excellent food. So if you know of anyone who needs space to rent, they actually don't charge us. They just, if you eat lunch here, you get to use the space. So if you've got meetings or events that you'd like to have great food at, this is an excellent spot to do it. Our next topic is the 4 steps for addiction. What I'd like to do with this segment is give you some information that's going to help you with our breakout groups later when you work on 4-step plans together. I know all of you are familiar with the 4 steps, so we're going to try to take it a little deeper and make it more useful for you in your practical life. The first thing, though, is always to review what the 4 steps are, and I know a lot of you know them. So step number 1, anybody? Yell it out.
Decide what you want and maybe make a short sentence about it.
Great, deciding what you want. I was thinking while Katie was helping us try to turn the pen into a diamond, we knew what we wanted, but just that wasn't enough. But that is a very important step. If we don't know what we want, then we can't start figuring out what kind of action to take to plant the seeds, to see in our future what it is that we do want. So I'm not saying that, when Katie's talking about the diamond, we're not saying that you shouldn't visualize what you want, because I think it's really important, and it's difficult. A lot of us have found that this is one of the hardest steps, to know what you want in one simple sentence. And then the second thing that we do at that point is to, sorry, maybe you don't know, I'm asking you a question. What is the second thing that we do? Find someone else who wants something as similar as you can. It doesn't have to be the exact same thing, but you're looking for something similar, and then you're going to make a plan, detailed plan on how you want to help them. And then, does anyone know what the third thing is?
Yeah, maybe use a plan to help them.
That's actually part of step 2. Because it's in the phase of the concept. I was confused about this before too. It seems like that would be the next step. After you find someone, that then you would make a plan. But it's in your visioning portion. Who do I know who wants something similar to what I want, and what practical way can I find to help them? How much time could I commit to that? Where would it be convenient for them to meet? How could that be done speedily? So then number 3 is the action. You've got to take the action. That's just do it. And while you're taking that action, you want to make sure to be really attentive. You don't want to be thinking about baseball while you're meeting your friend to help them with their donut addiction. So be aware. Be aware of the environment, where you are. Listen to the person closely and think about what their needs are. We know that we can't always help people with their addiction. If somebody has a serious addiction that could be even life-threatening, I'm not qualified to help them with that, but I am able to listen to their ideas about it and be a sounding board for them. The main thing is that we want to help and we make ourselves available. And then we can also help them find the resources that they need, of course, as well. But for an addiction that someone might share that I do have, my cell phone addiction particularly is something that I'd like to work on. And if you can get together and share ideas, Katie had a great idea about keeping the phone on airplane mode for more of the day, and I like that idea a lot. So we can share different ideas amongst ourselves about how we can protect ourselves from this constant electronic addiction that I myself am working with. And there's a 4th step. Does anyone remember what the 4th step is?
Coffee meditation.
Coffee meditation. The most important of the 4 steps, because we can come up with a plan, we can do the deed, and then we can, just like a farmer, put that seed in a place where it will never grow. I know Monique is a farmer, so if I take a seed and I put it on some cement and I don't give it soil or water or fertilizer, it will kill the seed probably without it ever even having a chance to sprout. So what the coffee meditation does is it sends the energy to the seed so that seed can grow strong and fast. And when something grows strong and fast in our 4-step plan, what happens is we get results. we have an example where Janice and I presented the Talent, Passion, and Purpose talk 2 weeks ago from today. And then, while everyone was doing their 4-step plan, Janice and I stood in this corner because no one needed us. And we're like, oh, well, maybe we better talk about our 4-step plan. So we each wrote down a little bit about what we wanted. And then we shared our notes, and now, lo and behold, both of us wanted the same thing as our number one most important thing. We wanted to be more involved with sharing these ideas and becoming better presenters and getting to present in a larger worldwide audience. And then 2 days later, we both got invited to go to Thailand to present for 2 weeks in December. So that was an example of a seed ripening very quickly. And so that's how we want our 4-step plans to go, so that it builds this excitement about, hey, well, worked for that, let's try it again. So the 4 steps to break addiction, for that subject, I wanted to talk a little bit more about different ways we could use a 4-step plan. First of all, some of us might not know what is holding us back. What is keeping us from being happy? What's keeping us from having the joyful, fun and fulfilling life that we want? So if you don't know what your addictions are, your first sentence might be, I want to be able to identify my addictions in the next month. So you could really focus on getting to know your addictions better, and to do that, you're going to be looking for someone else, right? So if you have a friend who you've noticed has an addiction that you think maybe they don't realize. So we can often see in others that they have behavior that's compulsive, but they might not recognize it in themselves. So here I go. My friend is addicted to watching Netflix constantly, but they don't seem to realize it. So I'm going to walk up to her desk and say, hey, Monique, I noticed you've got a real problem with watching Netflix at work. I want to help you. So I might not get a great response from that, okay? So here's one of the subtle points about 4 steps for addiction. It's going to be a lot more skillful if you have someone in mind that you think could use some help identifying their addictions. Go a little bit more casual and mention to them that you're working on trying to cut down on some of your bad habits in your life, and you are wondering if they would have time to get with you to help you talk about that. Okay, so make it about you, don't make it about somebody else that you've decided has a lot of addictions. So that would be one way. Another way is the more traditional way of using the 4-step plan. I want to cut down on my cell phone use. I know Katie wants to cut down on her cell phone use to protect her health and the health of her baby who's coming. And so we're going to get together and talk about ways to do that. That's just your basic 4-step plan. Now there's a third 4-step plan that I want to talk a little bit about here. We talked about the mother of addictions. The mother of addictions being that misunderstanding of where things come from. So I have to look at what is it that I'm trying to get from my cell phone. When I'm checking my cell phone, I'm often looking for a feeling of connectedness. It also is, for me, connected with busyness. Like I have this urge that I'm supposed to be doing something, and since a lot of my work is on my cell phone, I compulsively feel like I should check it to see if there's something I should be doing. So whatever addiction you decide to go after, I'm using the example of my cell phone, what is it that you're looking for from that thing? So let's say I'm looking for success at work, or to be more productive at work is the thing I identify from my cell phone. Is my cell phone actually, does it have that inside of it? Is my cell phone able to give me success at work from this direction? No. Sometimes I may check my cell phone and see that somebody wants to write a contract on a property or wants to go see property. Great. Yesterday I checked my cell phone and found out that somebody doesn't want to buy a piece of property that I thought they wanted to buy. So the cell phone has a lot of mixed results, and it has a lot of absolutely no results at all, but I picked it up and looked at it anyway. So what do I want? I want success at work. Rather than getting it from my cell phone, I'm going to find someone else who's looking for success at work and give it to them. So that's kind of a roundabout way of working on my addiction. Does that make a little bit of sense? If I'm looking for relaxation from a glass of wine, will the wine give that to me? Sometimes it might, or sometimes it might make me feel sleepy. Sometimes it might upset my stomach. it's not always going to give me the result I'm looking for. So we're going to say it doesn't work all the time. So if what I want is relaxation, I may still decide to have a glass of wine, but first think about how can you help other people feel more relaxed and more comfortable. Okay, so this is a really important concept in this level of breaking our addiction. There's one more thing about the 4 steps that Janice, I think, is going to talk about a little bit later, and that is if your environment is filled with a lot of people who are also checking their cell phones, who are also on their computer all the time, and they're thinking of it as a good thing. That's how you are more productive, that's how you show you're working hard at real estate, is you're constantly on your computer. So I'm in an addictive environment. We're going to address ways of working with that using the 4-step method as well. So next up, we have Katie talking about the wheel of life and how to break our addictions.
All right. So this is the wheel of life. You know, it's an ancient tool from 2,500 years ago. And I know the first time I saw it, the only thing I could really see was this guy. He's sort of scary looking. And then within here, you know, there's some really, a little bit of like Hieronymus Bosch looking scenes, if you know that artist. Some of his work is a little bit scary. So for me, I was like, why is this monster holding a Hieronymus Bosch painting? What is this? And I didn't realize that each one of these pieces of the wheel represents something we're all going to have to go through. So something that, it really should be called the wheel of painful life instead of the wheel of life, because what this represents is the pain that we get ourselves into, or the unhappiness, and how we end up being in a self-perpetuating wheel of unhappiness that we're actually creating. So the monster represents this pain that's coming for all of us eventually. Or in the case, it's the addiction and pain that the addiction will bring. For instance, even coffee, if left unchecked, it does cause you pain. You know, it might make you anxious, it might raise your blood pressure, it might give you an ulcer. Or in my case, you know, being pregnant, I have experienced physical addictions that I never had to deal with in my life, which was chocolate chip cookies was the main one. And you can ask my family, it was becoming a little bit of a problem to where every other day I was making 24 dozen cookies and eating them. Sometimes they wouldn't even make it to the baking part of it, but you know, and I was sneaking the ingredients into the shopping cart so my husband wouldn't notice, or I was hiding some of the cookies and giving them away so it didn't look like I was making that many. So it was a problem. So we're just going to briefly go over the parts of the wheel. Then more importantly, we're going to talk about how to break this wheel. So the wheel is a self-perpetuating cycle that we get ourselves into. And I think it's important to note that the wheel is pain. That's why I have this little teddy bear, you know, that's been a little beat up. So don't think that this wheel has anything to do with happiness, but if you know how to break the wheel at its killing point, then you can get out of the self-perpetuating cycle. So the monster we already covered, and then these are the 12 links, and these are how we plant seeds, what happens to those seeds after we plant them, and how they open, and then how we replant them. And we're going to go into more detail about that later. This actually has to do with the stages of addiction, and what happens if you leave your addiction left untreated. So, you know, but we don't have time to really talk about that in this talk, but if you have questions or want to know, we can talk about it later. So now we're going to come over here, and this image is in the very center of the wheel. And these 3 animals are sort of like the engine that drives the wheel, the engine that keeps us in the cycle. So this little guy, you can't tell, but this is actually a pig. And the pig represents our misunderstanding of where things come from. This represents my misunderstanding of where chocolate chip cookies come from, and also, you know, me thinking that happiness is inside the chocolate chip cookie. That when I eat it, this all-powerful chocolate chip cookie has the power to deliver happiness to me. But really the happiness isn't inside the cookie. The happiness comes from, I've made somebody else happy in the past. So the pig represents our misunderstanding. And then the snake represents our anger. So when we misunderstand our world, we get angry when we don't get the things that we want. And then this pigeon up here represents desire. When we don't understand where things come from, we have this type of desire that's willing to do the wrong things to get things. Like if you think that you want more money, you're thinking, I'll cheat on my taxes because that will bring me more money. And that's the form of desire that we don't want. But there are good desires. Like I have the desire to be rid of my addiction, and I know if I use the 4 steps, I can do it. Okay, so now if you leave your addiction unchecked, you get on what's called a downward spiral. However, if you learn how to break the wheel, you get on an upward spiral. And that's depicted in the center of the wheel. So what does a downward spiral look like? Well, a downward spiral would be you don't understand where things come from, so you keep doing wrong things to try and get the things that you want. Really, it's more like you're fighting to get the things that you want. You're stressed out, trying to get them. You're doing wrong things. You think that happiness is in the cookie. And the more and more misunderstanding, and the more and more actions or thoughts or ways you speak that you undertake that are hurting other people, you end up on a downward spiral. And you can really see this with addiction, such as, even heroin addiction. If you don't understand where that addiction is coming from, and you don't understand that there's nothing in that substance that's bringing you anything, you end up in a very serious downward spiral that usually ends in ruin and death. However, if you learn how to karate chop the wheel at its killing point, and you start applying what you've learned here, the idea of the pen isn't coming from the pen is coming from me. My addictions are the same way. My addictions are coming from me. And you start to use the 4 steps. You get on what's called an upward spiral. And this upward spiral has side effects, good side effects. So your life just starts getting better and better. And you find it easier to not get upset and to start eliminating, problems in your life and to reach your goals. All right, so where is this killing point on the wheel? It's a little bit hard, but these are the 12 links right here, how seeds are planted and how we stay in cycles. And you might notice you have themes that come up in your life repeatedly, and you don't understand why. Why do I have to keep going through this cycle? For instance, a good example of the 12 links in practical terms is, let's say on Thursday I yell at my kids or my dog. I yell at my dog, which isn't likely, but let's just say I yelled at my dog because I got angry at her. And then I come home on Monday, I open the door and I'm like, oh, honey, I'm home. And my husband starts yelling at me. He says, you're the stupidest wife in all of Durango. And really I am forgetting that my husband, the reason he's yelling at me is because I yelled at the dog last week. So I have a choice in that moment. I can think about where my husband's coming from. So I can be like, oh yeah, I planted this guy. Or I can be like, he's yelling at me for no reason at all. And so in that moment, I'll probably yell back. And then I plant more seeds to be yelled at, and I keep myself in the cycle. However, if in that moment I can break that cycle at the killing point in the wheel, then I stop having to go through it. And so this killing point is actually the blind man up here. And I have a guy being sprayed with pepper spray because, when you're blinded by pepper spray, it's very painful. So what does the blind man represent? The blind man represents our misunderstanding of our world. Just thinking pens come from their own side, or my addiction comes from its own side, or happiness is inside the chocolate chip cookie. And so how I kill the wheel, how I break the cycle and get out of it, is just by trying to do the opposite, trying to understand the pen, trying to realize that even my addictions, or Alex's phone addiction, are also coming from me. And I can use seeds to change the world and to change my reality into what I want it to be. And so the last section in the wheel we'll cover is, if you go back to the first image of the wheel, way back here, sorry, there's one person who's not inside the wheel, and that's the Buddha. He managed to overcome all of his addictions and got out of this perpetual wheel of pain. And he's saying, hey look, I did it, you can do it too. And look here, I even gave you instructions right here. The moon represents the way to do that, which is the 4 steps, and understanding that pins don't come from pins, their own side. So this is the wheel, and it's important to note that if we just work on that one single point, the killing point on the wheel, which actually is also the mother of all addictions, we can overcome our addictions. And if you work on the mother of all addictions, your misunderstanding, then it actually naturally clears up your other addictions. And then if you use the 4 steps to work on your other addictions, that actually works up to clear up your mother of all addictions. So it's a good cycle. All right, now to talk about how seeds can open and the addiction environment is my mom. Sorry, I'll get you to the...
Thank you, Katie. Thank you. So now we want to talk about how seeds open. We've covered how we plant seeds by misunderstanding where the pin comes from and repeating things that don't make us happy. So how do seeds open? Well, they open in 4 different ways. Let's see. You get what you plant. So if I do a kind act, like today I showed up and we have parking meters out here in Durango. And if I didn't have money for parking, I really couldn't park, or if I did park, I might get a $25 ticket. But somebody had left 3/4 on there that would cover an hour's worth of parking. Now that's an act of kindness. So that person who left that money there actually planted a seed for a good result in their future. So that's like plants like. What you plant, you're going to get back. The next thing is when you plant something, once you do it, it becomes a habit. And I like to think if I'm trying to eat healthy, which I'm actually trying to do, I'm trying to eat more healthy and be conscious of what I eat and choose what I eat more carefully. But let's just say that, I've been really rushed today and, I really don't have time to go home and make a smoothie or something that I think is healthy. And I head over to a fast food place and order a triple stacked hamburger with French fries. That's not healthy eating. So what's that going to do? It's going to create a habit for me to stop my healthy eating habit and to think that fast food is more convenient. So that next week when I get rushed, what am I going to do? I'm going to go to fast food not once, but twice, and it's going to progress. I'm going to plant more seeds for that habit to become stronger in my life. And the third way that seeds open is it creates the world around me. It creates the actual environment, the place I live, and the people I am surrounded by. They all open by what I see myself planting in my life, by how I treat others, or what I do, what my habits are. And the fourth way that a seed ripens, it ripens like our major transitions in life, which can either be good or bad. We obviously are making a lot of seeds by our choices that we do every day. So if we're planting good seeds, a major transition might be the moment we meet our partner. And that's a good thing for most people, maybe not for everybody, but let's just say those in this room, you've planted seeds to have a major transition, that you've planted a really beautiful partner. Or, a major transition could be the first time someone showed you the work that you do and how you're making your living. Those are major transition seeds. But in the case of addictions, if I'm planting a seed daily by continuing down a path of, let's say, alcoholism and not doing anything about it, I'm planting a lot of seeds that could destroy my present livelihood. I could just be destroying my health, destroying the way I make my living, and destroying my family. And soon, the major transition seeds that I might be creating are to live on this street. So, if we have the seeds for, let's say, alcoholism, how does that create our environment? Because that's really what we want to talk about, is how seeds open into our environment. So if I have an alcohol addiction, then the environment around me is going to be conducive to keeping that addiction. It's not going to help me break it, because I'm going to live in a society or in a country where social drinking is very much acceptable. In fact, if you think about it, I know every time we go to a restaurant and the waiter or waitress comes, the first thing they ask you when they arrive at the table is, can I get you something to drink? And they prefer a wine menu, or they tell you which beers are on tap, or they give you a list of cocktails. And it's just normal. That's our society, that's our custom. Or we might have liquor stores as big as supermarkets. I've seen them. They're amazing to me. They're like Sam's Warehouse or Costco, and it's full of alcohol beverages of your choice. And they look great. They're in nice bottles. They have great flavors like Mike's Lemonade, or those margarita mixes, or all sorts of really flavorful things that really taste good, but they're really not good for you in the long run and get you back on that street. So another way that can happen in your environment, if you have alcohol addiction, is alcohol is easily accessible. We have, you know, I've lived in Durango a long time ago, and there was a drive-in liquor store, and I thought, that is like an oxymoron. You're not supposed to drink and drive, but there's a drive-through liquor store. So we live in an environment that it's easy to get alcohol. And also, we live in a town that has the we live in a state that has the most breweries of all the 50 states. So we can find alcohol very easy if that's the seeds that we're planting. So if we want to break this habit, and we want to move, you know, maybe to get away from this, if we think that I want to break my habit of alcoholism, so I've got to avoid alcohol, what can we do about that? We want to avoid alcohol, so we think the best solution is
Move to Utah.
move to Utah, right, exactly. Move to Utah. You know, they have alcohol's harder to get there. But I move into a beautiful apartment in downtown Salt Lake City.
Salt Lake City has a
Yeah, thank you. Salt Lake City. So I moved to downtown Salt Lake City, and it's just wonderful. You know, I think I'm going to get away from the alcohol. But guess what? We take our seeds with us. So in the apartment building I live in, there's a cute little coffee shop. Well, someone buys it and converts it into a bar because my seeds went with me. And that little market that was across the street, that becomes a liquor store. And my friends that I hang out with, I thought they didn't drink. Well, pretty soon, you know, I know they played bunco 3 nights a week, and the gifts that they exchange are alcoholic beverages. So, you know, I didn't get away from my alcohol. So what am I going to do? What am I going to do if I want to stop this addiction to alcohol? Guess what? Yeah, a hermit. That's a good idea. What else? You guys have been listening. What else might I use to stop my alcohol environment and stop my alcoholic habit?
Starts with 4, ends with steps.
4 steps, right. I want to get out of the alcoholic environment because I want to I want an environment-free home. I want to live somewhere where I can get away from my addictions. So my first step is what?
Decide what you want.
Yeah, I said that. I want to get away from, I want to have an alcohol-free environment. My second step is?
Find someone else who has a bad environment.
Yeah, I would find someone else who has a bad environment and I help them get out of it. And the third step is, I just do it. I go to the coffee shop on a regular basis and I meet with them. And the fourth step to get out of that environment is coffee meditation. I'm really happy that I'm helping someone plant an addiction-free environment. And I'm also really happy that I'm using a system that helps someone else to get what I want. And I'm going to use that, and it's going to plant seeds for me to have an addiction-free environment. Now, I want to talk about something that's going to strengthen our coffee meditation. Let's just say that I live in an addictive environment, but I can't really think of anybody else who maybe their problem's alcohol, and that's my problem, but I want to help, I want to find someone. I can do something that we call cross-pollinating. So I help someone else with an addictive environment and I help them get out of it. And my mom is the first person who comes to mind, because it's really easy to see that my mom has an addiction to sugar. She likes sugar. She eats it at 3 meals a day and she eats a lot of it. She gets up, she'll have probably coffee and then some sugary donut or a sugary cereal. And then at noon, she'll have more sugar with a little bit of food. And if I ever bring food to her, the only thing she asks me is what I brought for dessert. And she'll not have one dessert, but multiple desserts at a single sitting. So perhaps I want to help my mom. And how I can do that is when I bring her a meal, I bring healthy foods that satisfy her hunger, and I bring healthy foods that make her that satisfy her sweet tooth without causing more sweetness. I remove the addictive environment. I remove all the addictive objects from her area. And this plants seeds for me to have an addictive-free environment. So I can bring that into my coffee meditation and be really happy that I'm not only helping myself, but that I'm helping my mom with a cross-pollination technique of helping someone else have an addictive-free environment. And how is this going to help me overall? Well, when my mind is free and I'm living in an addictive-free environment, I'm going to be more successful. And when I'm more successful, I'm going to be able to share what I know more and become a better leader. And when I'm a better leader, then people are going to want to listen to what I have to say. So those are my goals, and that's my goal today, is to become a better leader by becoming a person who lives in an addictive-free environment. And I'm working on it, and I'm using the 4 steps. And I'll look forward to telling you in our next visit all the success that I've achieved. And up next, Alex is going to talk about diamond deals.
Thank you, Janice.
Thank you.
All right. You guys have heard about diamond deals before, so I'm just going to do a quick review in case I'm not sure if Monique has heard that. So diamond deal is really a phrase, it's code word in the Diamond Cutter Institute world for 2 bad choices. And the story goes that a young couple wanted to buy a diamond ring for their engagement, and a somewhat unscrupulous jeweler sees them coming in and gets ready to unload some diamonds that he really doesn't want anyway. So the first thing, he pulls out a beautiful big 1-carat diamond, and the gal looks at it, and it turns out that what she sees is the diamond is a little bit yellow. And she's like, oh, you know, I was really thinking a white diamond might be nice. So he pulls out this beautiful white diamond, 1-carat diamond, and she looks at that and sees that there's a little spot in it. And she's, oh, I wanted a clear diamond. I heard that I'm supposed to get a diamond that's really clear. And so he says, okay, then you want this one. And he hands her the first one that is clear, but if you recall it was yellow. Asks her what kind of box she wants. And did you want a red box, a blue box? Are you going to pay with cash or credit? And the couple gets pressured into making a decision, and they walk out the door. It's not till after they leave that they realize that they ended up with something that they didn't want. So this happens to us all the time. We feel that we have to choose, and we forget that there's a third choice, which in the diamond cutter system is plant what you want and be patient for it to come. In the meantime, of course, we are doing our conventional things, we're making choices through life, but we've really thought about what we do want, and that's what we're working towards. So these are 2 bad choices. We didn't want either of those things. How does that apply to addiction? There's a couple of different ways, and the first way is, should I just give Ben my cell phone and tell him to keep it away from me? Total abstinence of cell phone use? Or should I set limits and taper myself off gradually? Which of these methods is going to work for me to break my technology addiction?
Maybe both, maybe neither.
Maybe both, or maybe neither. So they might work, or they might not work. And so we say that that's something that works only some of the time isn't really working. I can't say that if I never eat donuts, that I'm going to break my sugar addiction. Or, you know, I know even with serious addictions, different treatment programs will try the tapering off method with heroin. That's a common way of kicking an opiate habit because it could make you very sick to cut it off suddenly. So we're always trying to figure out, should we just quit cold turkey or should we taper off slowly? And the answer is, it might work or it might not work. A lot of people relapse. And so it's not easy to break an addiction. So what we want to do is we want to load the method that we use. So those are 2 bad choices. So that's one way the diamond deal appears in our conversations with ourselves and others regarding addiction. Another important diamond deal is a blank screen. Oh, there. Should I enjoy dessert and wine and a lot of sex and live a really fun lifestyle?
Yes.
Barrel of monkeys. This is the barrel of monkey question. Wouldn't it be better for me to just keep enjoying life to the fullest? Or should I give up my addictions and live on the train? So on a straight track going to a boring place by myself. I think there is one, that's me, right there. I've given up. And for those of you who know me, you might think, well, that kind of does look like what her life is like. She won't eat steak, she's not having that much fun, but really, actually, I am having a lot of fun in my life. So this is a diamond deal. You don't, if you give up something or break an addiction, it doesn't mean you have to live an unhappy, boring life. It is possible to be happy, to have fun, and to be healthy, and not to be hurting yourself or others, okay? So this is the choice that I think we should go for. So that's diamond deal in addiction. Now there's one other diamond deal kind of situation going on here, and that is, you know, if I get the circumstances together, I get together with a romantic partner maybe, and we have some wine, is that going to guarantee that I'm going to be happy? Am I going to have fun in this situation? And when I look at these people, I thought that it's possible that the recording's not going anymore, Katie, I don't know if that matters. It's possible that these people could end up in a fight tonight. That's what when I saw them, I was thinking about this. They could end up in a fight. She could have a headache from the wine. This could be fraught with pitfalls, right? So we're not saying that you shouldn't go on a picnic with your partner with a glass of wine, you know, if that's something that you like to do. But what we are saying is that the pleasure for this situation is not in the wine, and it's not in the partner either. There's no guarantee that getting together with this person that you may be interested in is going to end up in a happy circumstance. So we're asking you to think about where the pleasure comes from, and then load your stapler, so to speak. Make sure that you're helping other people to be relaxed, happy, enjoy their partnerships with people, help other people be closer to their boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, or whoever they have in their life that they want to be closer to, and then go on the date. And then when you reach for the glass of wine, remember, pause and remember that the pleasure is not in this wine, the relaxation is not in the wine. So it's not a matter of you know, can't go on a date anymore once we give you this information. It's just load the stapler before you go, okay? So we're going to do just a quick exercise with the 4-step addiction plan. And we're a small group, so everyone can just pick a partner if they feel comfortable with somebody. If you feel
work all together.
you could all work together. We can brainstorm ideas. However it works. We're available to help you too. So if you want to work by yourself and just have someone come around and talk with you, that works too. So there's just coming up with an idea of what you want is the place to start, and we'll help you do that. If you want dessert, feel free to break for dessert.